How many times have you lied today? Truly pause and consider that question, and notice the uneasy feeling it triggers inside you. Maybe you're already downplaying the lies, telling yourself they don't really matter, or that everyone else lies too. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Every false phrase, every disingenuous smile, quietly erodes the person you genuinely are. In a world where politeness is often a priority over honesty, it's easy to rationalize small, harmless lies. Yet those little deceptions accumulate, chipping away at your real voice. Before you know it, you're lost in scripts you barely recognize, repeating the words you think others want to hear. The language of a liar isn't just about grand cover-ups or outrageous claims. It's also the everyday half-truths that let you hide your pain, your stress, and even your hopes. Think about how often you respond, "I'm fine," when you're anything but. Each time you utter that phrase without meaning it, a subtle layer of distance forms between you and the people who genuinely care. Over time, that gap widens, leaving you feeling misunderstood and disconnected, even from yourself. That's the tragic cost of a language built on pretense. Think about the casual deceptions woven through your everyday interactions. Someone asks how you slept, and you mumble, "Great," even if you tossed and turned all night. A friend wonders if you're stressed, and you instantly brush it off, telling them you're completely fine. These small lies slip out so easily that you hardly notice their impact. In truth, they accumulate like quiet echoes, distancing you from genuine self-expression. Why do you keep doing it? Maybe it's because being honest feels too raw, too exposed, or maybe you've learned that candor can lead to conflict. Yet by shying away from transparency, you're actually allowing misunderstanding to fester. Sure, it might keep the peace for a moment, but what does it do to your inner landscape? Each time you downplay your struggles or pretend you're okay, you reinforce an internal message that your feelings aren't valid or worthy of attention. Over time, this approach becomes second nature, and you find yourself unsure how to be truthful about anything that truly matters. Casual deceptions, after all, aren't just white lies. They're signals you send to yourself, teaching you that pretense is safer than authenticity, even when it chips away at your well-being. From childhood, you're taught to believe that certain truths are better left unspoken. Parents often encourage politeness over candor, praising you when you keep uncomfortable observations to yourself. Teachers might scold you for speaking out of turn, while peers reward you socially for telling them what they want to hear. This early training shapes a belief that honesty is risky, that it can lead to judgment, punishment, or even isolation. So you learn to walk the line between what you really feel and what you're supposed to say, leaning toward the safer, more acceptable option whenever possible. Over time, lying becomes more than just a habit. It becomes a survival mechanism. It's the shield you use when you sense someone won't understand your true thoughts or emotions. It's the path of least resistance when you fear conflict. And sometimes, it's the way you preserve the fragile image you present to the world. Ironically, each lie you tell to protect yourself feeds a gnawing insecurity. Deep down, you know you're not being genuine, and that realization erodes your self-esteem. When falsehood becomes second nature, you might even forget what your real opinions, desires, and needs feel like without the fear of repercussion. Every lie, no matter how minor, extracts a hidden toll. You might think you're protecting someone else's feelings or saving yourself from awkwardness. But in reality, these small untruths corrode the foundation of genuine connection. Eventually, you find yourself trapped in a labyrinth of stories, where it's tough to recall which version of yourself you presented to which person. In this maze of your own creation, the cost is staggering. Peace of mind, self-respect, and the basic trust that holds relationships together. Even if you dodge immediate conflict, the tension you carry internally becomes heavier over time, fueling anxiety and self-doubt. You start to wonder if people would still like you if they knew the real you, or if your relationships are built on illusions. Before you know it, you're caught in a painful paradox. Lying helps you keep the peace on the surface, yet robs you of inner peace. True fulfillment and emotional well-being grow scarce in a life dominated by falsehoods. By trying to smooth things over with quick deceptions, you ultimately create a rift between who you really are and who you pretend to be. Every lie costs you more than you think. Are you paying attention to what you've lost? Picture yourself as a perpetual performer on stage. Each morning, the curtains rise and you choose which role to play, selecting your lines based on what you assume others need to hear. Perhaps you appear confident to a coworker, caring to a friend, or carefree to family members, shifting your mask to fit the situation. Like a seasoned actor, you've mastered subtle cues, nodding at the right moment, forcing a smile that seems real enough, inserting strategic phrases to keep everyone comfortable. But unlike an actor, there is no final bow where you step off stage and reclaim your genuine self. Over time, these roles merge into the only identity you know. Worse yet, when you slip and reveal a glimpse of your truth, you might feel exposed or inadequate because you've grown dependent on the applause of acceptance. You fear that if people see who you are without the polished performance, their admiration or respect will vanish. This dynamic traps you in a self-made screenplay, where authenticity is the villain that threatens to ruin the show. You've forgotten that a real, flawed, and vulnerable you can be far more compelling than any role you could ever play. What once felt like a suit of armor now feels like a cage. The lies that shielded you from judgment or discomfort become the bars that block your path to genuine connection. Sure, you might have avoided a few awkward conversations or sidestepped some criticism, but at what cost? Isolation creeps in when you realize you can't let anyone in too close. They might see the cracks in the facade. Soon, even mundane interactions feel suffocating because you're constantly on guard, scanning every sentence for potential reveals of your true self. It's a lonely existence, defined by the gap between who you are and who you pretend to be. You might think you're safer in this fortress of falsehood, but you're also depriving yourself of the warmth that comes from authentic understanding. Each time you reinforce the lie, you deepen the walls around you. Even if part of you yearns to break free, you fear the vulnerability on the outside. And so you remain in the prison you built for yourself, convincing everyone else, and sometimes even yourself, that the life behind those bars is where you belong, when deep down, you know it's far from the truth. Sometimes, the most devastating lies are the ones you whisper to yourself. You keep telling yourself you're too busy to chase a dream, or that you're unqualified for the opportunity you've always wanted. Maybe you convince yourself you're content where you are, even though you feel a persistent ache for something more. These are the lies that gnaw at your potential, stifling your growth and limiting your perspective on what's possible. You might call them excuses or justifications, but at their core, they're self-betrayals that rob you of the chance to discover what you're truly capable of. Each time you brush off a genuine desire or bury a meaningful goal, you effectively tell yourself that your aspirations don't matter. Over time, you begin to believe it. This internal sabotage is subtle, but immensely powerful. It's not just stopping you from stepping forward, it's telling you that you were never meant to move at all. By lying to yourself in this way, you preserve a fragile sense of safety, even as you forfeit the vitality and excitement of living in alignment with your real hopes, values, and passions. No external critic can hold you back like you can. When you craft stories to avoid facing uncomfortable truths, those stories eventually become your reality. Maybe you've told yourself you're not creative because it's easier than taking a risk and failing. Or you've insisted you're just not a people person, when in fact you're afraid of deeper connection. Over time, these narratives merge into a single identity, and you lose track of which pieces are truly you and which are fabrications. As the lines blur, an unsettling confusion sets in. You might feel restless or anxious, sensing there's more to you than these limiting scripts, yet you cling to them because they're familiar. Even when they suffocate you, they offer a twisted form of safety. Meanwhile, you miss out on genuine experiences that could broaden your horizons or bring you closer to your real potential. Are you living your story or just telling it? This question nags at you whenever you face the possibility of change. It's a reminder that your self-made stories can either be re-examined and rewritten, or they can continue binding you to a life that lacks authenticity. If you're constantly lying, whether to yourself or others, it's almost inevitable that you'll start accusing people around you of the same. Hypocrisy becomes your lens for viewing the world, as you project your own discomfort with honesty onto every interaction. It seems like no one can be trusted, when in truth, it's your own hidden double standards that corrode your perception of others. This paranoia robs you of genuine relationships and fosters an atmosphere of suspicion. Instead of building meaningful connections, you find yourself retreating, prepared to label anyone else's imperfection as a sign they're just like you, or worse. Each time you question someone's sincerity, you inadvertently reinforce the divide that your own deception has created. You see, hypocrisy doesn't just damage how others see you, it damages how you see them. When you lie to protect yourself, you assume others are doing the same, and that assumption leaves little room for compassion or trust. Ultimately, you end up trapped in a cycle of doubt, where every human encounter feels strained by layers of unspoken fear and guardedness. And in that cycle, real intimacy or friendship can scarcely take root. Language is a powerful reflector of the mind. Pay attention to the words you use when you're not being fully honest. You might rely on phrases like, "trust me," or "to be honest," which can ironically signal that trust or honesty is lacking. Overly dramatic or exaggerated explanations can hint at desperation to cover up gaps in the story. Sometimes, even the frequency of your reassurance reveals your unease. If you find yourself repeatedly confirming how truthful you are, perhaps you're trying to convince yourself as well as others. Body language complements these verbal cues. Forced smiles, lack of direct eye contact, or fidgeting can betray your hidden discomfort. Yet, it's not just about telling obvious lies. It's also the subtle omissions you slip into conversation, the vagueness that allows you to sidestep deeper explanations. These linguistic habits create an undercurrent of tension, felt by both you and those around you. When words aren't congruent with genuine intention, people sense a disconnect, even if they can't pinpoint why. Over time, these small signals accumulate, making it harder for anyone, including you, to trust the messages you convey about who you are. Dishonesty doesn't always rupture relationships overnight. Often, it's a slow but steady leak in the foundation of trust. Each small falsehood might seem trivial at the time, but collectively, they erode the sense of security that binds you to others. Perhaps you tell your partner a little lie about why you were late, or assure a friend you listened to their advice when you really tuned out halfway through. In isolation, these moments might seem harmless, but they accumulate like corrosive drops, gradually weakening the bond. One day, you find that your partner's gaze carries suspicion, or your friend's laughter feels hollow, and you can't quite recall how you reached this fragile state. Trust, once chipped away, isn't easily restored. It's a delicate bond that requires consistent honesty and genuine care. Ironically, the very lies you use to make things easier in the moment end up sabotaging the depth of your most important connections. In the absence of authenticity, mutual understanding fades, and the distance between you and the people who matter grows wider. Over time, you realize you've traded intimacy for convenience, leaving you isolated and uncertain of where you truly stand with anyone. Silence can speak volumes, and sometimes its message is more damaging than an outright lie. Perhaps you withhold information because you fear conflict, or you suspect people might judge you if they knew the truth. In this way, your silence is less about peaceful avoidance and more about stealthy deception. Over time, these unspoken realities create an emotional gap in your relationships, one that's harder to bridge than if you'd simply admitted something uncomfortable up front. Silence can breed resentment, as those left in the dark often sense there's more to the story. It also allows misunderstandings to fester, turning minor issues into festering wounds. By refusing to voice your concerns, desires, or misgivings, you forfeit the chance to resolve them, leaving them to linger in the shadows. Even your silence has a language. What is yours really saying? When you adopt silence as a shield, you might feel momentary relief, but the long-term consequences can be devastating. Genuine connection thrives on candid communication, and each silent omission is a quiet betrayal of that core bond, eroding trust in ways you may never fully mend. Embracing authenticity starts with acknowledging the lies you habitually tell, both to yourself and to others. It's not about punishing yourself or dwelling on guilt, but about transforming how you live and communicate. Identifying one recurring falsehood is often the best place to begin. Maybe it's the reassuring lie you offer to keep everyone calm, or the self-deprecating myth you cling to so you don't have to take risks. Pinpoint it, question it, and dare to speak the truth in its place. At first, it might feel terrifying, as though you're peeling away a layer that's long protected you from judgment. Yet each honest conversation, each moment of transparency, builds a bridge back to your core self. Suddenly, you notice a sense of relief. You no longer have to keep track of multiple narratives or worry about who knows which version. Living truthfully doesn't mean you must reveal all your private thoughts at every moment. It means aligning your words with your genuine feelings and beliefs. In a world that often favors politeness over honesty, this step can be revolutionary. The courage it requires is immense, but the reward, renewed self-trust and authentic connection, can alter your entire life. When you allow honesty to guide you, an extraordinary sense of liberation follows. Gone is the constant worry about being found out, or the effort of keeping stories straight. In its place, you discover a quieter, more profound kind of peace, a feeling that who you are and how you show up in the world finally align. It doesn't mean every moment is easy. Sometimes the truth still stings, and vulnerability can leave you feeling exposed. But it also brings a comfort that's impossible to replicate with lies. You find genuine relief in relationships that endure your honesty, rather than mere tolerance for half-truths. Over time, a deep-seated confidence emerges as you realize you've stopped hiding from the people you love and from yourself. This honest way of being becomes a protective layer in its own right, because it shields you from the anxiety that a false persona once created. You see, truth doesn't just free you from the burden of deception. It opens the door to authentic self-discovery. In that space, you learn to rely on your core values and instincts, knowing that whatever the outcome, you're living in alignment with what truly matters to you. So here you are, standing at a crossroads between continuing to foster the language of a liar or choosing a more honest path. The decision isn't always dramatic. It can be as simple as taking a breath before you speak, questioning whether your words ring true. Will you remain in the comfort zone where deception dulls life's edges, or will you brave the discomfort of showing your real thoughts, needs, and hopes? Changing your narrative won't be effortless. You may lose people who preferred the surface version of you, and you might confront long-held beliefs that no longer serve you. However, what you gain is immeasurable. The chance to inhabit a life that feels genuinely yours. The question is, are you willing to pay the cost of sincerity? Perhaps you'll start by admitting a small truth you've kept hidden, or by challenging yourself not to exaggerate your feelings in the next conversation you have. Each act of honesty is a step toward transforming your relationships, your self-image, and ultimately, your future. If you choose authenticity today, You're choosing to stop allowing lies to define you and to reclaim the power that genuine connection and clear self-perception can bring. If this has resonated with you, please subscribe for future videos.